Okay, well now I can follow this up without worry, I guess. Deleted some things I didn't think I could. Okay, so Skyward Sword now. I sort of brimmed over, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks, but the level design in those are, for me, average. The gameplay for me in those are average. So, 5.5, 5.0, For me, that's what it is. For me, it's average. For me, it's okay. For me, it's enough to get you entertained, but nothing masterful as far as I'm concerned. Now, Skyward Sword. Okay, so Skyward Sword for me is like very hit and miss. Like, there are many things about it that I actually really like, I'd say. Like, I like the customization, I don't mind actually. I don't like how progression is in the game, for the most part. I don't mind dungeons that much, I'd say. I don't mind boss fights that much, I'd say. The problem is just the controls. Like, seriously, like, the control is so important to me in a game, I'd say. I'd say the control is around, like, 70% of what I judge in a game, to be honest. So, for Skyward Sword, if I consider all the other aspects besides the control good to above average, then yes, that will result in, perhaps a decently high score in, relative comparison, but the problem still stands. It still stands. It does. And there are some parts in Skyward Sword where it really messes up, I'd say. Like, there's this one tree part, this tree section, where you get the dragon scale right after you get it. And there's this tree you climb up, and you need to, like, swim into it and whatnot. Well, you can fall off this tree. And, that might happen, because by the end you're running on this sort of, like, thin log platform with enemies that can knock you off. Well, one time I got knocked off. Because of the motion control. And, I went up the whole thing again, and then I got up again, and then I was knocked off again. And then the third time going up, I drowned in the water. Because I was so low on health. And then I turned the game off. Yeah. I usually don't quit games like that, but I just didn't feel like continuing to go. Because the game just... I just got fed up with it because of the control. I'm sorry. Well, okay, I've beaten Skyward Sword. I've beaten Skyward Sword like 3 times, I think. And I've like halted a playthrough. Another playthrough. So like sort of played it 4 times-ish. It's a game I enjoy. It's a game I do enjoy. Sometimes. Like, when the control's working for me, I enjoy it. I have fun with it. I like how the levels are structured. I like how it progresses, like I said. But my problem is enemy design and the control. And, my problem with enemies is that they're designed around the control. And my problem with this is the combat in Skyward Sword. I don't really like the combat in Skyward Sword. And for me, combat is quite important in Zelda, if you haven't noticed by this point. In Zelda, I like to craft strategies, optimal strategies for dealing with every single enemy in the game, Some are more simple than others, like in Twilight Princess, those, like, sort of basic enemies in the game, I don't know what they are, but these, like, pink things with, like, wooden, like, sort of, wax, or, well, not wax, but I don't know what you call it. But for those, I'm just like Gale Boomerang, and then like sword combo to like finishing blow, which would be, and then the sword combo is like slash spin attack to ending blow, and then like in the beginning of the game when take 2 hits to kill. It's like slingshot 2 hits. Like, you know, like I optimize it like that, like around their health bar and around how they approach and what weapons are they vulnerable against. How I can stun them most safely without, you know, risking damage. You know, like in the N64 games, I'd do that. You know, I'd be like White Wolfin, you know, like back up and shield when he attacks, Deku Nut jump attack twice, and then he's dead, you know. Like, that's what I do in, like, in Ocarina of Time and whatnot. Like, that's how I play it, you know? That's how I do combat in Zelda games. I make optimal strategies, you know? Fastest way to kill them with taking the least damage and taking the least risk. That's what I'm into. Yeah, so to be honest, I think I probably could do a 3-heart run for most Zelda games, because I can kill most enemies without getting hit at all. But I don't, because I don't like progressing like that. I like seeing the heart containers go up and whatnot. Now, problem with Skyward Sword is that you can't use weapons while targeted. Like, you can't use the bow and arrow while targeted. You can't use whatever, the beetle, while targeted. And I don't like that at all. At all. I don't like that. What that does is means that the only precise weapon you have is the sword. And the problem with that is that the sword in Skyward Sword is not as precise as other games before it. Like, 'cause other games before it, what they would do is they would have like a 3-hit combo. Or maybe like a 4 in the case of Twilight Princess. It's just hit, hit, finishing hit. And that's it. Rhyming. But Skyward Sword, you just sort of slash, and that's it. And the problem with that, the problem with this system of Skyward Sword is that they'll make enemies only, like, vulnerable at certain times. Like Skulltula, you need to, like, hit them from the bottom of their head upwards to, like, a finishing blow, and, like, you have, like, those, like, dog, skeleton, snake, whatever it is, things with, like, 3 heads that you need to, like, hit off all their heads at once by hitting it at an angle, specific angle that their heads are at, and blah, blah, blah. Like, it means that all the enemies have one way of being defeated, which, first off, you know, makes strategizing very, like, bland, I'd say. Like, I don't really have strategies for Skyward Sword enemies. But it also means you're forced to play around with the motion control. And the motion control is the most accurate as far as I'm concerned. There are several times where it'll just misread what I'm doing, and I'll just slash in the wrong place. Makes fighting Girahim really unfun for me, I'd say, you know? For me, Girahim is like, when it works for you, I have fun with it. When it doesn't, I don't have fun with it. Now, Skyward Sword also has the Shield Bash. Now, the Shield Bash, I don't mind that much, but here's my problem. So Skyward Sword is either, like, here's Skyward Sword combat. It's either you work with an enemy pattern, they leave themselves vulnerable at a certain point, or you just Shield Bash their move and then punish them by just slash spamming in their face, you could say. And that's it. You know? Like, the you know, more intricate things I described before, like, in earlier games, like, well, like, even adding on to that, like, you know, like Deku Scrub, you know, run up while holding shield, Deku Nut to, like, slingshot, you know, like, Twilight Princess, I changed my combat style, like, depending on what time I am in the game. Like, when I have Mortal Draw, I'll kill most enemies with the Mortal Draw, because it one-shots most things. So I'll take the approach of, like, Gale Boomerang, and then, like, put away the Gale Boomerang, roll into, like, the front of the enemy, and then just, like, well, no, walk in, depends on the enemy, you know, and then just, like, Mortal Draw, kill them, you know, like, these more intricate ways of playing that I can, like, change throughout the game as I get more equipment and whatnot. I don't need to play around the equipment I get in Skyward Sword. All the equipment I get is for solving puzzles. In combat, you know, Shield Bash if they attack you, read not really read, but just react to their positioning if you need to attack them. That's it. You know, like, I can use arrows from a distance, but usually enemies are more aggressive than that, or if they aren't more aggressive than that, I need to use the sword against them. So, you know, like, the thing I have fun with in Zelda games, you know, this thing of, like, making strategies to take out enemies optimally, I can't do it in Skyward Sword, because enemies usually just have one way of being defeated. You know? So, yeah, no optimizing there. I mean, I can optimize routes, and I find Skyward Sword okay for that, but other Zelda games do it better as far as I'm concerned, and yeah. And there's also the Gratitude Crystal thing, which I don't like either. I don't like that system. So yeah, Skyward Sword, you know, like, I like its side quest system. I like how you can, like, route collecting items in it. But the combat, like, you know, I just don't like the combat. And the combat for me is quite important in Zelda, and I don't like the control, and the control for me is, like, the most important thing in Zelda to me. I don't mind the dungeons. For me, like, the dungeons are not bad in my opinion, but for the puzzles anyway. But for me, the puzzles aren't important to Zelda. For me, what's important is the combat, and the control, and, like, the positioning of things in the game. You know, the level design in essence. For me, the puzzles or whatever isn't important, because once I learn what that is, after, you know, going through trial and error on my first playthrough, then, you know, it's just sort of a thing that I do, instead of something that I solve. Because, you know, a puzzle, once you've solved it, you can just do it again. You understand how it works. You know, it just... Yeah, so... Anyway, that's Skyward Sword. Now to Breath of the Wild. Oh yeah, there's also, Link Between Worlds. Haven't played it. Looks good to me. Like the level design, like the diversity and how you could go about it. You know, I like how you could route it, potentially. The combat is like Link to the Past. You know, I like it. To me, it looks good. I haven't actually played it, though, so I'm only going to, you know, talk about it, you know, liberally. For the things that I can't speak of, you know, in this little overview of what I know about Zelda, I plan on following these things up once I have an opinion on, you know, what I can't talk about right now. Okay, so now for the last thing that oh wait, Hyrule Warriors. Haven't played that either. Though I'm not sure if you'd count it. I mean, I guess you could. I mean, I counted the CDI games, so yeah, you can count that one. I mean, it's Dynasty Warriors. I like Dynasty Warriors. I mean, I prefer One Piece Pirate Warriors and other Dynasty Warriors, but it's fine for me. Like, I don't think it's bad. You know? For me, it's... Something about it is a bit more bland to me, but compared to, like, other Dynasty Warriors and One Piece Pirate Warriors, I don't know. Something about it is more bland to me. I don't know what it is, but... Yeah. I don't mind it, though. Like its visual style, like its... The character movesets are pretty good, in my opinion, you know. I like its use of imagery, I like... You know, its concepts, I find them to be quite appealing to longtime fans, you know. The plot's pretty ridiculous in my opinion, I don't really pay attention to that. Yeah, I like it. Don't love it. Yeah. Skyward Sword, by the way, for my rating. And I'm gonna say Skyward Sword's a 6.5 for me. I know some people think Skyward Sword's like a masterpiece or whatever. Say what you will. You know? So I'll say to that, you know. I'm giving my opinion on it. your experience with the controls are your experience with the controls. You know? Yeah, like for me, I can adapt to Shadow the Hedgehog, so, you know, it is what it is. I can take what I can take, you can take what you can take. Yeah. I honestly think 6.5 is a bit generous, you know, for how much people do hate on this game, but, you know, there are aspects that I like, so I will admit that. You know, I don't biasly hate it. I just have problems with it. Okay, so Hyrule Warriors, from what I've seen, because I haven't played it, you know, from what I'm seeing, I give Hyrule Warriors like a 6.0, and now there's Breath of the Wild. I have limited exposure to it. I plan on watching like Nintendo Capri Sun's like entire Let's Play of it, which is like 40 parts with like an hour for each part, so I don't know how long it will take me to complete that. But I've never played it. It looks good to me. But the combat looks a bit bland to me, especially because you have like weapons that like deteriorate and whatnot. For me, it's a game you could route. You know, you definitely could route it, but it's not the type of game I like routing. You know, I don't like routing games where you need to work with variables such as like things breaking and whatnot. I mean, I don't mind working with limited use tools like that, but with the length of it combined with things like that, I'm sort of alienated to routing it. It's a game you could route, but it's not the type of game I like routing as much. For example, you could route MGS5, but I don't really like routing a game like that. I prefer routing a game like MGS2, if you know what I'm talking about. That's sort of an example of what I mean. MGS2 is more compact. It's maybe around 4 to 3 hours long. MGS5 is like 50 hours long, so, you know, you could route either, but, you know, I prefer routing something more compact. I prefer routing, you know, something, you know, less bloated, I'd say, to be honest, you know. Something more structured, something less sort of, less, you know, something more linear, to be honest. So, I mean, for me, that's what I look at when it comes to, like, Zelda games. Is how I can route it, how it is to just play through overall, you know? The depth of it. Because I myself like depth, you know? I find Ocarina of Time to lack a bit of depth. Not that it has none. It can be optimized, which I have done, but it's a bit more basic, you know? And for me, Twilight Princess is, like, just... It's even more basic than Ocarina of Time. It's just that the combat makes up for that. In Ocarina of Time, the combat doesn't make up as much for the more basic route. I don't hate either game because of that. It's just those are problems I have in comparison to my favorite games of the three Zelda series, Wind Waker and Majora's Mask, where I find that their level design, you know, object placement, you know, progression, and combat are all to my liking. So, you know, is what it is. So Breath of the Wild, you know, the progression of it, the level design of it, the way it is, the way it goes, I like it, from what I've seen of it, but the combat looks a bit awkward to me. It looks quite awkward to me, honestly. I don't know. I've never played it, but it doesn't look the best to me. I don't know. I'm really not sure what to say about it, to be honest. I think it's a game that, like... It's a game where people got what they didn't know they wanted. Is what I'll say with that. I'll just keep saying, I like it. But it's not to my preference. I like it, but it's not to my preference. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not into those open world games. I'm not into those, like, collecting all kinds of materials to, like, craft more things sort of games. You know, so I'm not really into Minecraft and whatnot. Things like that. Skyrim, whatever, you know? I'm just not into these things. You know, I prefer something more compact, you know? Like, it's just how it is. So. Now, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, that's actually, I think I've said pretty much all I wanted to say. Progression, not exactly to my liking. You know, level design, not exactly to my liking. Combat, not exactly to my liking, but I think the game does what it does very well. It's just what it does isn't my favorite type of thing. So, I like how it does what it does, but what it does isn't my favorite thing. Sort of like how I feel about MGS5's gameplay. You know, I like what it does, but what it does isn't what I like. Or at least not my, you know, favorite thing. So that's what it is for me. From what I've seen of it, I'd say I'd give Breath of the Wild a 7.0, though that may rise or lower if I actually play it. Now, this isn't like a concrete opinion, okay? I've never played that, and that's a game that I actually think I really should play in order to get an opinion on. That's just sort of almost conjecture, honestly, from just me seeing it, you know, looking into it some. So, you know, and to be honest, I'm not asking you to respect any of my opinions here. I'm just saying them, you know. You know, when I say my opinion, I don't ask for you to respect it or whatever. I don't care about that. I just say it because I like expressing my opinion, you know. Regardless of how much facts are rooted in it. Of course, I like to have my opinions be based on facts, you know, not, you know, just emotional conjecture, but, you know, what I judge is what I judge, and that's not always going to be something I know, though what I talk about and can extensively talk about is what I'm interested in and do now, so, yeah. Okay, so that's Zelda. That is Zelda. I mean, I could talk about Breath of the Wild's release cycle and all that, but another video. That was fun in my opinion. You know, I can just, like, sort of rant now, because my power is, you know, safer now, because I deleted some videos. You know, I like that. I like just being able to go, you know, not just go, you know, sort of just go off topic, say what I want, you know, not worry about time constraints in the video and whatnot. This went on longer than I expected, but I don't care. I'm having fun with this, you know, just saying whatever, you know, padding it out a bit. I've already given my opinion. I could end this right now, but I'm still just going on. But I think I'm going to end this right now, so, yeah, goodbye. Thank you for watching. If anyone watched this, I don't know if they did. I mean, whatever. Goodbye.